Who do we have here? Nice to see you.
I'm Steve from the Register Herald.
Steve, nice to see you.
Nice to see you.
I'm Zaria from WBBA.
Great to see you.
Caleb with WLAY.
I know you. Oh, wait, who are you, Mitch? Go ahead.
Cameron, 59 News.
That's great. Want to say thank you. It's always good to be back in Raleigh and in southern West Virginia. And obviously, we're beaming to places across West Virginia today because we have some updates on some really important initiatives. I'm going to start out right away. Hey, guys, why don't you come on in? Come on in, Delegate. Always appreciate you coming. This guy's doing some good work. A couple big announcements just to let people know that we are going to be proceeding as part of our announcements related to energy. We'd like to elicit the input of people from across the state. And I wanted to mention that because we're in southern West Virginia where energy is really important. If you care about coal, if you care about gas, if you care about manufacturing, you should care about the energy policy that the state is putting together right now. We're trying to more than triple the power capacity, the generation of energy, so that West Virginia can become one of the single best exporters of energy and electricity in the world. And we're thrilled with the reaction we're getting because if you care about coal, if you care about gas, care about nuclear, you know, West Virginia is positioning itself to be the battery for America as we're working to compete against China for technological supremacy. So we want your input. That's really critical. We're obviously going to be meeting with a lot of people who have affected interest, some of the companies and others, but we want the public to come forward with ideas as well. So we urge people to be in touch. That's a critical piece as we work on it in the upcoming months. If you have thoughts with respect to energy generation, energy transmission, energy security, or the duration of our plan, which we know that we want to have a policy that could extend 25 years because you don't want the yo-yo effect, things to go back and forth in terms of new administrations that might change it. That's critical. So we would like your feedback, and I wanted to make that announcement here. Second, this morning, the Trump administration announced its release of its application process for rural health transformation. And it is my intent to submit that, to follow through with that application. And we have to get our application in by November 5th. This is rural health transformation. And so we're seeking to meet with all interested people, the public, healthcare providers, legislators, others, before we get our response to the application in less than 2 months. This is coming really, really fast. But we're going to be working hard to get this together. And of course, we want to have a transformative impact on rural healthcare outcomes in the state. Within the big, beautiful bill, there were some provisions that ensured that states have a minimum of $500 million that will be coming over a 5-year period. We're working to put an application together, not only to access those dollars, but to build out, to effectuate rural healthcare outcomes, but also to help drive economic growth as well. That's critically important. So being down in southern West Virginia, I wanted to mention that because rural healthcare matters a great deal here. It matters in Charleston. It matters in Parkersburg, in Wheeling, in Hancock County, Marion County, the Eastern Panhandle, all across the wonderful state of West Virginia, virtually every county is a rural county. So if anyone is listening across the state in any one of the 55 counties, know that we're going to be working hard to put a response to that application together to try to access these important federal funds to really move forward from a healthcare perspective. So, two really big things that we wanted to mention today. And then separately, we know we continue to work very hard on economic development. That is something we spend the most amount of our time on because we have to lift up our people, our standard of living, and we have to continually focus on infrastructure development. That's what we're doing. And I know that Southern West Virginia has benefited significantly from all the resources that we've been putting in. We're going to keep going on that. And we know in the upcoming months, we're going to continue to fund initiatives to help with site selection and development with water and sewer and many other things. And we're excited because there's so much good that we can do. If you build a good infrastructure, that really is one of the best things you can do to facilitate economic development in the area. And I know this part of the state, there's a lot of excitement about what's in store. So I wanted to come here and say hello and mention those three things, but also take any questions that you may have. Yeah, please.
You recently signed a bill creating a framework for NIL
Yeah.
in the state. What does that mean for West Virginia? Can you elaborate on that?
Well, absolutely. So first of all, I'm a big believer that when our universities win, West Virginia wins. So whether you're talking about Marshall or WVU or any of our schools, when they're competing well, it's a big boost for the state. And I know that when you have strength in your athletic programs, it can lead to more enrollment. I think our schools need to be pitching for more enrollment. I was just up at the WVU Board of Governors meeting the other day, and I pitched them. I challenged them to increase their enrollment. I know that President Brad Smith is doing some good work in Marshall to address that as well. And so we want to do that. And NIL, obviously, there's a recognition that we're moving to this new era where student athletes have an opportunity to get paid for their name, their image, and their likeness. And so now there are 30 states that have passed legislation of this type. And I think that those who are in school are going to have a chance to not only make money as a result of it, but it's going to be done with some of the rules. So it's not the same Wild West that it was. So I think it means good to have a structure in place, and we're excited about that. And I was up at WVU the other day talking about that, the importance. I spoke with the Big 12 commissioner about that. And I think it's going to help West Virginia tremendously. So we always want to make sure that we're doing right by our universities and by our student athletes. When those schools succeed, generally it's great. When the athletics succeed, wow, it's a big plus for the state. Next question. WVBA.
Yes. Could you talk about any updates for the McDowell County with the bridge and everything?
Yeah, a couple things. First, we are really pouring significant amounts of time into McDowell County. In fact, we've put over 60,000 hours of time in on a number of big fronts. I think what's important for people to understand, we've had over $63 million overall from the last track in terms of the southern floods, large percentage in McDowell. We've already now put in, I believe, over $19 million recently in terms of the water projects. That's going to keep going and going. And I've asked my DOT to look at every which way to help. Now, when they're private bridges, the state just doesn't, we don't control those private bridges. I think that's really important to know. So we've been talking with a lot of people to try to help ensure that those bridges get rebuilt, because while they're privately owned, private people, we're always pushing, just as we've done to make sure that there was a lot of the cleanup that came in. There was a lot of volunteer work, a lot of help, but we're pouring time and effort in to McDowell County, and we're going to keep doing that. Once again, we have hundreds, if not thousands, of these private bridges across the state. So we're doing everything we can. I've made bridge development and repairs an important priority of our administration. We're going to keep pushing, and we know that even though they're private bridges, we're trying to help out the local community and make that happen. That really matters. And so whether it's folks on the local side, folks on the charitable side, the federal side, we want to work to help make good things happen.
So Senator Justice also said though that there should be plenty of money to be able to fix it. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, look, I mean, I know that there were a lot of problems in McDowell before I became governor, and I welcome, Senator Justice's input. I welcome any resources he may have. He was the governor for a long time beforehand, so I'm sure he may want to help out to the extent he can. He has business interests down there, so I welcome that, right? I mean, there were a lot of challenges when I took over in terms of a lot of the rankings of where things were. We're working to fix them every single day. So I certainly appreciate the input, the work, the financial support for anyone who wants to make the county and the state better. And I'm eager to have that happen. So we want everyone's help to make sure we're making progress here.
And what are your thoughts, or can you just speak on how there was a bridge kind of, or an area that they can drive to for the neighborhood that has to walk on the railroad tracks, but it's just as dangerous as them walking on those railroad tracks?
Yeah, listen, I think it's critical to get that fixed. As I said, there are a lot of the private bridges, so that's what presents the difficulty because they're not state owned. But we certainly want to work with the local communities and try to help out as much as we can. I really mean that. And as I said, there are opportunities for local businesses, maybe even Senator Justice's businesses to try to help make that happen. So we're eager to do that. It's difficult when it's not a public property because we don't have authority over it. I want people to understand it. But at the end of the day, we have to solve the problem. We have to work together to make it happen. And I welcome everyone's help, whether we're talking about local resources, state, federal, or private help to make sure that we're fixing problems. But obviously that's a private bridge, and that's the reason why that's been lingering for a while.
Do you know who owns the private bridge? Like it's private?
Well, there've been issues in a number of these private bridges where it's been difficult to find out some of the people that own it. But certainly we want to do everything we can to fix these problems. I want to note that there were a lot of these problems that existed for many years and decades first, and so sometimes it's hard when you have someone that says, oh, well, you need to do X, Y, and Z when the last guy didn't really do very much in the area. That's what makes it difficult. But we're going to do everything we can. We have poured time, energy, money into Southern West Virginia. It is a huge priority for me. And I said I lift my hand out. Anyone who wants to help out, we're so eager to have great success because we need that. We need to make sure we're all working together and we're doing good things for McDowell and all the citizens of our state. I can tell you that there's no region of the state that's been getting more resources right now in terms of the water projects that are going on. That's been a huge priority. We just had more recently. And obviously there's been a massive amount of time on the roads. We're going to keep working day after day because we can't leave the people behind. I'm a believer in that. And as I said, we welcome all the help we can get.
Is there any way to put a walking bridge if we can't put a bridge that they can?
Well, look, as I said, we're eager to work on all of these issues and to be very helpful. And so I know that part of it is working with the local folks. It's not the state's property. So I think that people have to understand that we want to come in, but we have to make sure that we're working with the local people that own the property. And so we can try to be helpful. And we certainly want to do that. And we want to get the help from the private sector, from the locals. And obviously the state's going to continue to be very helpful on many fronts.
Register Harold?
I know that a vaccine case has been going on in Raleigh County this past week, and I didn't know if there was anything, any developments that have happened since the lawsuit was originally
Sure.
filed, or any general thoughts on?
I think the biggest thought, and I appreciate you asking that question, is that there are a lot of people that try to distort what's going on. This is about a religious exemption, plain and simple, a religious exemption. So that's different than what may be going on in other states. We were very pleased that the Trump administration, that they've been supportive of our position, not only Secretary Kennedy, but the HHS, the civil rights piece of it, talking about the importance of respecting religious liberty. So I think that people, if they focus on that we're looking at what I think is a very narrow exception, probably going to impact 300 to 500 people a year. We feel very good that this is an important accommodation to people's religious liberty interests. And so that's why we've been doing it. Now, it's very important to know there are a lot of people that are trying to misstate what this is. This isn't about, nothing. This is about a religious exemption, which would be consistent with how 45 other states operate. And so I think it's critical that the public knows that, and so that there's a way to do this in a manner that's going to protect public health, but also respect religious liberty interests. Obviously, the court case is moving forward. We know that the Supreme Court is scheduled to have this filings will end the end of January. So we know we're going to work with the Attorney General and others to make sure that the best possible submissions are made. But look, I'm very optimistic. This is an issue that we're going to prevail. It's a question of when, whether it happens in the courts, whether it happens in the legislative arena. I think people know that we don't want to be an outlier, one of only a couple states that's not accommodating people who's deeply held religious beliefs. And so that's why I feel so good about it. I think the people are behind us. When you ask them the question, not just talk about, these different questions they're trying to do to distract attention, but do you support a religious exemption? There's wild support for that. Hey.
Thanks for having me. One of the biggest topics of discussion nationally right now is the recent tragedy involving Charlie Kirk. Some have said it feels like an attack on free speech in America. What are your thoughts on that situation generally?
Look, I think it is an attack on free speech, and what happened was awful at every level. Charlie was a friend of mine. Charlie was assassinated for his political beliefs, and he stood up for free speech. And that's wrong and horrific on every single level. And I think you're seeing a lot of people rally behind the cause. I mean, Charlie Kirk was a martyr. And it's important that we all reflect about what's going on so that we're not cowed in terms of our willingness to do things the right way, to engage in free speech. I would tell everyone, if you know someone, bring them in. Have a good old-fashioned political debate. Be civil about it. Do the right thing. That's what we're asking for. That's the Charlie Kirk way. That needs to be our way. And so I'm excited about it. It's deplorable seeing some of these people attack Charlie and go after him right now. And that shows you what's going on in our country. But Charlie Kirk was trying to show us a good way. He would go to college campuses. He'd engage in civil debate. He'd show respect to people. I think that's the pathway forward. That's what we try to do here in our administration. I'll note that I was up at the backyard brawl, and we had the Pennsylvania governor, right? The Pennsylvania governor's a Democrat. We don't agree on all issues, right? But we talked about a number of things, and I said, look, we want to engage in discussion. They said the only area where I'm going to make sure I'm going to treat you very well in terms of welcoming you to West Virginia, except on the football field. And that's, I'm hopeful that's one of the reasons why we won. WVU beat Pitt. But I think you want to engage in those discussions and have good conversation. And we should be striving to do that as a people. Charlie certainly did. I'm pleased there's going to be a vigil in Charleston on Thursday night. And I think there's a lot of interest in that. I mean, this has been a really tough stretch, but I want to make sure people know that you can go, you can debate, you can share your perspective, and you should be able to do that without worrying about reprisal or an assassination.
Thanks so much.
Governor, what would you say to people now in the wake of that feel, they want to maybe get politically active, but in the wake of this, they're afraid to put their voices out on a platform because of what happened?
I don't think people should be afraid to get out there. We have to make sure that we're showing support for anyone who's engaged in the Charlie Kirk way, because that's the right way. We have to get back to being civil as a society, but we also can't be cowed by the opposition. And it's unbelievable, some of the responses that you're seeing coming from the other side. I think the best thing to do is to treat people with great respect, and then but fight for your opinion. There's no doubt. Use your free speech. Engage and bring other people in who you agree with, who you disagree with. Someone asked me the other day about Turning Point, and I said, the Turning Point group is growing and growing because that was his organization. I would say to everyone in West Virginia, get involved in an organization, get active, stand up for what you believe in, get other people as well. people you agree with, people that you disagree with. That's the American way. And I think that's a really important lesson for people to remember. You can never give in to these people that are trying to shut us down. That's wrong on every level. And I want to make sure we're honoring Charlie's life accordingly. Obviously, the state has lowered the flag half-mast to show respect for Charlie Kirk and his family. And I'm looking forward to the vigil on Thursday night.
We have time for one more.
Any other questions?
I got one more if that's okay.
Yeah, sure.
West Virginia just released a final broadband proposal for the BEAD program.
Mm-hmm.
I just wondered if you could talk a little bit about how that will help
Yeah.
expand broadband in southern West Virginia.
Well, we worked very closely with the Trump administration on that early on, and we're going to continue to work with them. We're going to have additional conversations. We think we put a strong application together, and we tried to work closely and follow the direction of the Trump administration. I was the one early on that went in to meet with them and said, look, we want to work well together to make sure that we're not only putting West Virginia first, but we're working with the new administration because the Biden administration had a lot of excess that certainly wasn't needed in terms of some of the policy programs that they had in place. We tried to work with the Trump administration to address that. So we're going to keep pushing to try to get that approved. And I'm going to be willing to talk to anyone who will listen to me about why having broadband matters in West Virginia. Broadband is basic infrastructure like sewer, water, power, broadband. You have to be able to be in touch with everyone. And that's what we're working to do. So thrilled to keep working with them. And when that goes through, right now that's set for about 74,000 locations. That's a really big deal. And we're excited about the progress that we're working. We put a lot of team in. I want to thank our team for it. And now we just have to keep pushing the Trump administration, the right way. We know they have a lot of good people there. They're big allies. We're hopeful we can get good results.
Thank you, Governor.
Okay. Thank you all very much.
Thank you.